Sustaining Us is made possible by Fireheart Pictures and viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for Sustaining Us here on KLCS PBS. I'm David Nazar. There are nearly 500,000 children in the foster care system in the United States. 60,000 of those children are in California, with a majority in Los Angeles County. Foster care is a sad state of affairs. That's just the truth. Far too often, these youngsters get stuck in bad state care with no way out. Part of the collateral damage of foster care is the education crisis this broken system presents. Half of all foster kids nationwide don't even graduate high school, and most never have the opportunity to apply to any type of college, let alone graduate, with their overwhelming challenges of daily survival. With all that said, what if there were a better solution to help foster kids have a better future? Well, a Southern California collaboration of nonprofits is trying to do just that.
I am a foster youth and I am in college, so I get to shop at this event.
It's shopping day for hundreds of foster youth, former and current, now on their way to higher ed. With less than 5% of foster youth graduating from college these days, this accomplishment is monumental. And for their efforts, these students are getting some help. This back-to-school shopping day of sorts for these college-bound students is going to provide much-needed provisions, things like brand new school books, school supplies, pens, pencils, backpacks, all types of clothing, jackets, shirts, shoes, and just the basic necessities to get these scholars of tomorrow on the road and into their dorm. These young people are shopping for free. Not a bad deal given today's inflation, gas prices, cost of living, cost of school. Jessica Jones knows all about this. Jessica was stuck in the foster care system for years, now incredibly on her way to grad school. Life wasn't easy for her, and even today, Jessica has many challenges.
This event actually means a lot to me because most of these things I wouldn't normally be able to afford. I'm a mother of 2 children, and I try to make sure that they have the stuff that I didn't have, which mostly means that I go without so that way my children can have the stuff I didn't have.
Today in the U.S., about 500,000 youngsters, through no fault of their own, find themselves in the foster care system. Many get stuck here languishing in this broken system for several years, well past when they're supposed to get out. Often they go from a bad situation to another. The foster care setting can be as unsettling and chaotic as their tumultuous home environment, being separated from their siblings, psychological trauma, the anxiety, the depression, PTSD, relocating from home to home. The numbers are staggering. Some foster youth have lived in 40 to 50 different homes before they're 18. However, possibly the most difficult part of all this is when they're 18. That's when they age out of the system, often with no help from anyone. And that's when things go from bad to worse. 25% of foster youth who age out are incarcerated within 2 years of leaving the foster care system. Nearly 50% of foster youth are homeless the first year and a half after leaving. More than 50% of foster youth report 0 wages earned in the first 4 years after leaving the system. And that's why these nonprofits are here today, and they'll be here tomorrow to help these youngsters age out of the system and prepare them for their new world. Ruth Stelford is part of that effort. Ruth is the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Make Good, Inc.
We got an emergency call from one of our partners saying, we just found out Jeremiah got into an HBCU. He's leaving 2 days from now. He's living in a shelter. He doesn't have anything. 6'5", great guy, no joke, really had barely anything. We got him over here. We hooked him up with a suitcase with everything he needs to get on that airplane and get over to that school. This is what Jeremiah said to us when he came shopping the other day. He said, do not give up. There are really good people out there who want to help you. You have a lot of strength inside you. Don't give up. Keep persevering.
Ruth says she gets a lot of that strength each day, knowing she's affecting the lives of foster youth. Young people who otherwise might not have had the opportunity to succeed in life had they not had the help of Make Good Inc. and the other nonprofits Ruth partners with.
I don't think we can afford not to collaborate anymore. I think the world has changed so much, and what we do here is one of the things that is part of our mission is not to duplicate efforts. And so if someone is out there contributing to this issue and doing a really good job, we're going to reach out to them and we're going to ask them to come and join us so that everything we do, so that the outreach increases, the people that we're able to serve increases, and the experience increases, right? So we're able to offer more, right? So that can be replicated anywhere. And we know that there's foster youth and system-involved youth all over the country. And so you just need to find a core group of nonprofits that are focused on this issue, and you need to get them to work together.
And that's exactly what these nonprofits are doing here today. This free shopping spree is courtesy of several different Los Angeles nonprofits that are trying to find solutions to the overwhelming struggles foster youth are dealing with. Ruth and Make Good Inc. are joining forces with Open a Suitcase, Ready to Succeed, Stepping Forward LA, the Children's Action Network, the Pritzker Foster Care Initiative, the Water Buffalo Club, the Department of Children and Family Services, and the storefront here, this is the Emporium Foster Resource and Literacy Center. All these support systems are dedicated to improving the future of foster youth and other disadvantaged kids. Jennifer Perry is the executive director of the nonprofit Children's Action Network.
These youth come into this system with nothing and they leave with less. And we wanted to be able to provide them the tools they need to have this new start in life. And today, it's youth who are going on to college, which is remarkable. The statistic is that 10% of former foster youth pursue college and about 5% make it through. So we can make a difference today just by removing one of those roadblocks, which is having the essentials, having sheets, having towels, having Tide detergent, having shoes, having blouses, all the things that people take for granted that their own kids have, that these foster youth don't have. And they really don't have it because they don't have a safety net. So if they go to that dorm and they don't have the right sheets, they can't call anybody. So we're there for them. And so today is about giving them all of that so they have the best start they possibly can. The key is if we lift foster youth up, they don't fall back into the system. They don't fall into homelessness. They don't become justice system involved. If we carry them and keep lifting them and make sure, because one of the things we often say is some of these youth, they're one flat tire away from derailing all of their goals. And if we can be there to metaphorically fix that tire or help them over that hump that would prevent them from reaching their goals, then we are keeping these kids, youth, on the right path and on a path to success.
That success is not an easy road. Many critics argue the foster care system here in the U.S. needs a complete overhaul. Many of those critics are former foster kids themselves, and while they did not talk about this on camera, they cite things like foster care being overrun with too many antiquated systems, all the red tape, the bureaucracy, the mismanagement, and that includes too many people involved on the local, state, and federal level, all insisting they have a solution of how to fix this broken system, often at the expense of the foster children. And then there are all the players in the lives of these young people. For example, the guardians, the advocates, the social workers, the courts, all of whom can unintentionally make a foster care situation much worse. The United States spends billions of taxpayer dollars each year on foster care. And with all that money being spent, there's limited data and minimal evidence that foster children's lives improve with this costly and often traumatic intervention. And yet, with all that said, Jennifer believes a foster youth landscape with all its flaws could finally begin to change in a positive way thanks to collaborations like this one.
When I started doing this more than 20 years ago, people really weren't talking about foster youth and they weren't getting the resources that they needed. When they aged out of foster care, they ended up largely on the streets because no one had thought about the simple fact that if you age out of foster care with no supports, you're not going to do well. People are starting to think about that now. And what's really been wonderful is the kind of collaboration that you're seeing today with our pop-up is the kind of collaboration you're seeing across a whole bunch of disciplines in the foster care field, whether it be providing housing and services for youth who are aging out, whether it be people who are giving scholarships at a level that they never have before. And part of that is all the work that's been done by all these organizations to say, you know what, if there's a youth in foster care, it's your responsibility to help that youth succeed. It's your responsibility to make sure they have the resources that they need. And that's been a wonderful change in the field, and that's why we keep doing it. There's a young woman I was an informal mentor to, and to watch her get into Barnard and get through college and succeed was remarkable. And she came from South LA. She had never seen most of LA, let alone New York. So education opens up all these doors. It's the path for these youth to success and out of poverty.
To not give up, to network, and to share your story. There's a lot of people that are willing to help. You just have to be willing to share what you've been through and your experiences, and sell yourself. Let them know where you're going and where you want to go and what you plan for your future. And there's actually a lot of people that are willing to help you out.
And for more information about foster kids or various nonprofits or how you can help out, we have some websites on the screen there for you. Just go to makegoodinc.org. That's makegoodinc.org. Or you can log on to the childrensactionnetwork.org. That's childrensactionnetwork.org. Both are great nonprofits doing great things for our youth. And we're going to give you another nonprofit to check out there on the screen, TwinSpire. That's twinspire.org, twinspire.org. We're going to tell you why we're giving you that one in just a moment. Joining me to further this discussion is Ruth Stalford. Ruth was part of my field report and is the founder and executive director of Make Good Inc. Also joining me is DeMonte Thompson. DeMonte is a former foster youth, and today DeMonte Thompson is the co-founder and executive director of TwinSpire. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Tay, beginning with you, we talked on the phone for a few minutes the other day. You have an amazing story which you have to share with our audience. You were a foster child for Compton, a very difficult life to say the least. I hope I'm not getting too personal. If I am, let me know, but please share some of that story with our audience. Go ahead.
No, you're not getting too personal. In fact, I'm an open book. I wrote a book when I was 18 about my experience in foster care, and it all began with my parents struggling with some of the challenges that they had, being in poverty, and some of the other challenges that they had with substance abuse. And I have 9 other siblings, born and raised in Compton, California. Luckily, my great uncle stepped in during his retirement age, and he took 3 of my other siblings and I into his home, and he raised us as his own. He taught us how to build homes, and he really emphasized education.
Delve more into that, because obviously I've done so many reports on this when so many kids are struggling these days in the foster care system. How did you accomplish all that you did? I mean, give us more of that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta really pay homage to and shout out my family and my loved ones. And when I say that, I'm referencing my great aunt who passed away when I was 12 years old. I remember massaging her feet with alcohol, and she would just tell us about her dreams for us, how we would graduate college one day and how we would change the story of our family. And I want to also give a shout out to my teachers who really took special interest in me and my twin brother at an early age. They really held us accountable with tough love. And in some ways, they were other mothers to us. And as I traversed through the education system of being placed in special education classes and really trying to navigate what's right from wrong, and not wanting my great uncle who was in his 70s and then 80s to come to my school and see if I'm doing well or not. I really wanted him to be at home and to brag about the good stuff that me and my twin brother were doing. And so I think most of the work and how I've gotten to where I am now today has been because of the values and the support that my family has provided, and that my teachers has allowed me to be able to take the opportunity, take advantage of the opportunities such as the Chafee grant and other IOP services. And my lawyer stepped in and was able to kind of connect me with some resources as well. So every time that there was an opportunity, I applied for it, and luckily it worked out. But I think for me, it's very challenging for me to be doing the work that I'm doing now, because most folks see this as being, if DeMonte did it, why can't other young people do it? But I think we have to be able to understand what other factors young people are going through, and how can we be able to sort of navigate and ameliorate their negative experiences in foster care when they're going from home to home, from harm to harm. And so for me, I always like to be able to dig deeper and to think deeper about how were my experiences and how we should not have to depend on luck for young people to succeed.
So talking about that, Tay, take it even further. What do you find are the biggest problems with the foster care system, and what don't we, the public, know about this system? Because this system is not doing great these days, to say the least, as you know.
Yeah. And I think we should start by really addressing the elephant in the room, that most Black families have interactions with the foster care system, and it's a daunting statistic that we are aware of. Before the age of 18, more than 50% of children in the U.S. have some interaction with the foster care system. And so I've also noticed too, through my research and through other scholars like Dorothy Roberts and Brianna Harvey, where they're being able to understand the complexity of a system and how poverty is oftentimes conflated with negligence. And so if we're beginning to understand why many young children in poor Black communities are being taken away from their families and put into other locations, and then those particular parents or caregivers are given resources to take care of those children, we're doing it all wrong. In what ways can we be able to provide the type of resources that the children in their Black communities that they need, where they don't have to go outside of their communities to get the support that they need?
Ruth Stalford, I'm going to take a moment to set the stage for my question to you. Listen, taking care of, what is it, nearly 500,000 kids in the foster care system, obviously this is a massive task. It's a Herculean effort for the United States, the government, the local, the state, the feds, whomever. Yes, I'm going to say on the record, I do believe that with good intention, they're trying to do the best they can. With good faith, they're trying to do the best they can. So let's establish that right here and now. With that said, I also must say, no matter what the challenges, Ruth, funding or otherwise, some of the things that Tay has just mentioned, this government system, like so much government intervention, look, it gets an A for effort, it gets an F for execution. You and I were talking on the phone, what was it, a few weeks ago? We were laughing, I think I said it, not you, but if I hear one more person talking about the foster care system and let's have another meeting, let's have another task force, another conference, one more study group, one more focus group, right? They're studying and restudying, analyzing, reanalyzing to fix this broken system. Let's identify ways. I don't get why these stakeholders just continue to throw tons of money at this problem and nothing is done. It's typical of government. Ruth, is my categorization of this accurate, too harsh? Because if I'm wrong, definitely correct me.
Well, I don't think it's too harsh if you're one of the young people who are affected by this system. You're not harsh at all, right? I think government does not do nuance. It just doesn't, right? And so there is, and I think Tay sort of touched on this a little bit, that the system itself is just filled with perverse incentive, and which is part of the problem, right? So Tay was talking about throwing money at things, and if you reward people for taking kids into their homes, and reward might not be the right word, but then that's going to create a system that isn't really centric to the kids and to what these children really need, right? And so the idea of providing the services to the community in a holistic way, in a preventative way, is more important, right? I think that would be a better solution. But then what happens to all of this bureaucracy, right? Where does that all go? And so I think that is where nonprofits can come in. And I think that, the government, certainly there, as you said, there are organizations and departments and people working so hard to try to do, change things, but we got to stop talking about it and we just have to start doing these things. I mean, we all know what the problems are. Let's just start fixing them. So that's where nonprofits come in.
And speaking of that, because we have to try to find solutions, particularly on this program. Let's talk solutions, not the white noise and the chatter that we constantly hear. So talk about your nonprofit situation. Ruth, logistically speaking, can you folks be part of this foster care solution? In other words, maybe having nonprofits take the lead with other private companies or private-public partnerships. Just get the government out of this convoluted system. Not entirely. Yes, we need government. I'm the first person to say that, but limited government in this sense, because often, unfortunately, government can be part of the problem. That's why we reported on you folks, Ruth, and what you're doing with a nonprofit. So talk about how you're affecting change more and how you could be that solution you just mentioned.
So what we can do and what we do and what you saw right in the report is that we're able to sort of work outside of the system with the system, right? And so we don't have the time constraints. We don't have the red tape. We don't have all of these barriers in the way, except for fundraising, to getting things done, right? So we are able to look out at the terrain and see who's out there and see who else is doing good work and what are they contributing, right? And then we can reach out to all of these other organizations who are providing a service that can help better the outcomes for these, young people. And we can bring all of that together without having the bureaucratic red tape and without having the restrictions and the regulations and all those things that slow the process down, that convolute the system. And so that is where, nonprofits really can come in and make a very significant, quick impact with long-term impact, right? And then help support better outcomes for the government systems. Right? We could work much better together if we just made that commitment. And then in terms of corporations, there's a lot of stuff out there and extra stuff. And if we can partner with all of those organizations to aggregate all of that and make sure it gets into the hands of the people who need this stuff, that can also make a big leap in helping young people and this whole system.
Yeah, Ruth, both you and Tay, Ruth, we can begin with you. 30 seconds on this answer, and then I want to find out some examples of what you're talking about so the viewer gets a better idea of where you're at with all this. Ruth, and then to you, Tay.
So simple example. So we invite young people who are system involved to come shop free of charge for tons of brand new clothing, hygiene products, backpacks, all of that stuff that would really impact their budget. And they're high quality items, and they are the same thing that my son has, the same backpack, the same, jeans. Yeah. And so we invite at regular intervals, and that not only do we fundraise to get the new stuff, but we also have manufacturers all over the city who will donate that product to us. And so that's an incredible partnership, right? And we make sure that everyone's getting the really great stuff that everybody wants. So that's just a very simple example of how that can work and what that can look like, or providing brand new books, school supplies, things so that when you walk on campus, you're feeling just like the guy you're walking next to. So that's, it's really important.
Tay, add to that.
Yeah. Thank you, Ruth. And you're absolutely right. When I was younger, I got to benefit from some of those initiatives. And so you're doing incredible work. On my end with Twinspire, we provide financial literacy, social justice training, and lastly, culinary experiences for young people. And so what we've noticed is that young people who are transition age youth oftentimes are sometimes lacking the skills for them to be able to traverse through college, to get to college, to navigate the school systems, to navigate independent living. So we said, how about young people who have lived experience where we train them to go out and to teach other young people who are in the system. And so that's one of our initiatives. But a more specific example, I would say, is our partnership with Friends of the Children Los Angeles, in which will we be able to pair young people with a supportive adult to impact their academic achievement and to also provide. And we know this by research that one supportive adult can make the difference in a young person being able to achieve excellence. And so that's something that really passionate about, and that we believe that systems can do a better job with in paying mentors to be a part of young people's lives to prevent them from going into foster care and prevent the family from having this interaction with the child welfare system.
Final question, Tay, and then to Ruth in our remaining 60 seconds. I talk to so many folks who insist the system is too broken, it can't be fixed. You say what, Tay?
I say they're onto something. There is a movement now that's called Up In Movement. And there are scholars who are researching what better ways can we be able to support communities, community-centric ways to support families who've had negative experiences in foster care where their children are being bounced around and around. A great example of this is Andrea Elliott, who wrote a Pulitzer Prize winning book based on the experience of a family in New York who was experiencing homelessness and the system that failed her and her family time and time again. And I think we have to begin to look at what our community-based organizations do. Do we have a running list of all of these organizations and how we can sort of create some type of community liaisonship, some type of directory, so when young people and families need these resources, they can get them immediately.
Ruth?
Yes, yes, Tay, I agree. And I think just like we've all been pivoting for the last few years, it's time to pivot. It is time. And in the direction that Tay is talking about. And I think that's what we have to do. Doesn't mean we can't figure out how to do it together, but it's time for some big shift. Absolutely.
I hope that happens. Thank you both so much, Ruth Stalford and DeMonte Thompson, for your great interviews. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the platform.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you. Now, for more information about our program, just click on klcs.org and then click Contact Us to send us your questions, your comments, or story ideas so we can hear from you. Or contact me at David Nazar News on Twitter, or just go to David Nazar News on YouTube. Contact me there. You know we're going to get back with you. And be sure to catch our program here on PBS or catch us on the PBS app for all things sustainable. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Sustaining Us here on KLCS PBS. I'm David Nazar. Hi, I'm David Nazar, host of Sustaining Us. Thank you so much for watching KLCS. If you enjoy our program, as well as all the other programs here on KLCS, please consider supporting this station. Your support helps keep all your favorite programs available. You can support KLCS by calling 888-998-KLCS or simply visit klcs.org. Again, thank you so much for watching KLCS PBS.